Hello, everyone. Oh my goodness, I am so excited to be chatting with all of you. And I figured why not go live and talk about this? Because lately I have been getting so many messages in my inbox about this one topic. And this topic is anxiety. If you notice the title of this video, it is Anxiety is Like Quicksand, so embrace it. If you are someone that struggles with anxiety, that you have an anxiety disorder, if you have panic attacks, if that is you, let me just say, I feel you, girlfriend. You are not alone. I am an anxiety warrior with you. And the sad thing is that this is a topic that a lot of women don't talk about. A lot of people don't talk about it because they're embarrassed, they're ashamed. They are afraid of what people will think of them if they admit that they have anxiety, that they can't control themselves, that they don't know how to overcome. And I'm here to share with you some ways that I personally have overcome anxiety, how I overcame panic attacks that were debilitating where I couldn't even drive my car. But the first thing I want you to hold on to, first thing is that embrace it. And I know that it is so easy to want to push away anxiety. You want to hide from it. And maybe you don't have anxiety, maybe you have depression. To me, they all go in with the same family. It's mental health. It's mental health. And maybe you've had mental health issues your whole life, or maybe it has come out with a health issue. Mine personally came to head after my third child. So I have three amazing, beautiful babies. They are incredible. They are the light of my life. And it was 6 weeks postpartum after my third child that I started to struggle with postpartum anxiety and panic attacks. And a little background before I go into some things that really have significantly helped me. And they were the cornerstone of me embracing anxiety and really me overcoming anxiety. Is that when I started to struggle with postpartum anxiety and panic attacks, it was after my third child, and it was 6 weeks postpartum, and I had three kids under the age of 5. They were 5, 3, and a newborn, and my husband traveled all of the time for work, and I was just trying to do it all. I was in grad school to be a nurse practitioner, a family nurse practitioner. I was not sleeping. I was breastfeeding around the clock, and I literally just lost myself. I lost myself. My health broke. Long story short, I began to have panic attacks that I could not control. I could not control them. I would have panic attacks while I was driving, and every single time that I would have a panic attack, usually the symptoms were different. There were times where I thought I was having a stroke. My side of my face would go numb, my arm would go numb, and I would start to lose sensation on half of my body. That put me in the ER multiple times. There were other times where I would have heart palpitations and my hands and my feet would go numb. I would not feel them. I wouldn't feel my hands and my feet, and I thought I was having a heart attack. There were other times where I would see floaters, I would see spots everywhere, and I thought that I was gonna go blind. I literally had so many different symptoms, and it really came down to the fact that I had an anxiety disorder, and that when your body is under a state of stress, if you didn't know this, if your body's under a state of stress, it releases over 10,000 different chemicals. Isn't that crazy? Over 10,000 different chemicals your body releases when you're in a state of stress. And every time your body releases those 10,000 chemicals, your body can react differently. So maybe one time you can have a headache. Maybe the other time you have heart palpitations. Maybe the other time you have, bowel movement issues, diarrhea, or whatever. All of those things. I'm a nurse, so sometimes a little too much TMI. But those things can happen when you have anxiety. It's your body's in that fight or flight state of mind, and you don't know what's going to happen. And saying that, I had to be put on daily medication. I was on daily medication for anxiety. I went through 3 different types of anti-anxiety medications. 2 of them I had severe adverse reactions to, and I finally went to a neurologist psychiatrist. Don't be embarrassed, ladies. Own it. Own your story. I'm here to share with you all of the good, the bad, everything, because hopefully will give you hope and strength that you can overcome as well. Is I eventually went to a psychiatrist and neurologist He specialized in both because for some reason my body was not reacting to the medication that I was needing to take. So we found a medication that worked beautifully, and it allowed me to start to recover myself. But during that time, because the medication I was on, it was slow acting and I was on the lowest therapeutic dose, I had to take Xanax, those pills that we don't want to talk about. And I get it. I get that there is this stigma to medication. I get that people don't want to talk about treating their anxiety or their mental health. But listen, sometimes you have to. And for me, my life depended upon it. My kids depended on me being a functional mom. My kids depended on me taking care of them. And I had to take medication. And I remember, gosh, I can get emotional thinking about it. Oh, I can get emotional. I remember my mom is a therapist, and thank God I'm going to get emotional about this. I was not planning on getting emotional, but my mom is a therapist, and thank God that she was in my life during this season, because when I was having to get treatment and when I was having to go to doctors and figure out the right medication, I really did not want to take Xanax. I did not want to take that medication because it's highly addictive, and in my family, there is history of addiction to pills and to alcohol and to all of those substances. And I had this fear in the back of my head that if I took Xanax, it was done. I was going to become an addict. I had no control. Like, this was the end all be all if I started to take Xanax. Well, I had to take it. And my mom said to me, I remember so vividly, and I can get emotional about it, is, sorry. I remember my mom and I talking, and I was at my worst state. And my mom looked at me and she said, Allie, she goes, if you do not take care of yourself right now, if you do not take care of you and take the medication and get the help you need, your kids aren't going to have you. You're going to be in the hospital, and you're not going to be able to be a mom to them. And it was like this moment, and I was like, I have to do this for my kids. I have to take care of me, and I have to do whatever is necessary to beat this and to overcome this, because I knew that God had called, I need tissues. I don't even have tissues, ladies. I knew that God had called me to be more and to do more, and that he wanted more for my life as a mom, as a wife, as a woman, as a daughter, as a sister. I knew that he called me to be more than what I was doing. So I got rid of the fear, and I started to get the help I need. So I'm going to share with you my few tips of how I have overcome anxiety and how I continue to overcome anxiety, because I still battle it. I still battle anxiety. I still struggle with it. It's nowhere near what it used to be. Gosh, it's nowhere. Oh, no tears. You're not alone. You're not alone. Let me just tell you that. You're not alone. But there's a couple things that you can start doing right now in your life to overcome stress, to eliminate anxiety. And once you have anxiety, I don't ever feel that you can be completely free of anxiety. I feel like it's almost like rooted in you. But one of my mentors, Gwen, she was actually my youth leader, and she married my husband and I. And she told me, because her and I have similar stories with just anxiety, and I remember her telling me that look at anxiety as a gift. Look at anxiety as a gift from God, that it's reminding you of keeping yourself in check. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so powerful. That's so powerful, because every time now today, not then, now that I've been able to really learn and become self-aware of my body and my anxiety, is every time I feel anxious, I have like this flag that goes up in my brain that says, okay, Allie, are you taking care of you? Are you in the Word? How is your relationship with the Lord? Are you honoring yourself? Are you doing too much? Is your to-do list too long? And it's this like red flag in my brain that says, check yourself right now. And if you have anxiety, look at it as a blessing, because it's triggering you to be intentional about taking care of yourself. I know that sounds crazy, but I promise you, there's so much truth in that. There's power, because when I feel great and I'm like, I'm on the top of the mountain and I'm like, yes, I feel like I can conquer the world. It's usually because I'm doing the things I need to be doing to keep my anxiety in check. But the second something flares up, I got to say, okay, I go down my list. I ask myself what's going on. And then I usually can see that there's a weakness in those behaviors that I am doing or I'm not doing. Another thing that my counselor said is, she told me, just like I said in this title, that anxiety is like a quicksand, so embrace it. Is that when you have anxiety, when you have some type of anxiety disorder specifically, it truly makes you very symptomatic, and you have to embrace it, because if you don't, it actually gets worse. And the more you can embrace those symptoms of anxiety, the more you're going to get past it, and your body's going to accept it. I know that sounds crazy, but your body actually starts to accept the symptoms and they start to dissipate. So the more you focus on those heart palpitations, the more you focus on the floaters that I saw, the more I focused on the fact that I had 10 pairs of socks on my feet because my feet were going numb because they were so cold, the more I accepted it. And the faster I accepted that I was struggling, my body began to say, it's okay. This will pass. So here are my tips for all of you. Take note, okay? Take note of these, because I live by these. They have helped me be 7 years, not 7, let's say 6 years panic attack free, 6 years free of anxiety medication. And I'm going to tell you guys something, because I think every single woman needs to hear this if you are someone who battles anxiety. I still carry a little Xanax around in my wallet, just as a reminder that I am strong and that I am capable to overcome. And I just keep it in there as a reminder for me. Literally for 7 years now, I have a half of a Xanax that I carry in my wallet, and it's just there as a reminder that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and that I can overcome anything that comes my way. So just like my reminder I see every single day, which has been pretty powerful for me. But number one to embracing your anxiety, but more than that, overcoming your anxiety, is you have to accept that you have it. You have to accept that you have anxiety. The more you fight it, the worse it's going to get. And I was in a state of denial for quite some time that I was borderline anxiety disorder, and then it became full blown. And let me preface this. I'm a type A personality, perfectionist. Everything's got to be perfect. And if I don't have my ducks in a row, I get frazzled. But that was a sign for me. That was a sign that I was going to be predisposed, most likely to have anxiety, but it was just stress. I functioned at a very high stress level. And I remember my mom and my husband would say, Ali, you got to calm down. You got a lot of stress going on in your life. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. I can do it all. I can be Superwoman. I can live this unsustainable lifestyle, be burnt out, and still be healthy and happy. Wrong. That is completely wrong. You can't live that way. So when my anxiety finally came to head, and it was like this full-blown anxiety disorder, panic attacks, I had to accept that I had it. And I had to accept, number 2, that I needed to get help. And it's one thing to accept that maybe you're struggling. And listen, moms, my heart right here, my heart that looks weird with my hand, my heart goes out to you moms, because I know how hard it is. I know how hard it is. I was the mom that wanted to be perfect. I wanted to be the mom that had the best birthday party in the entire world. I wanted to be the Pinterest mom that did everything perfect. And I didn't want any of my friends to know that I was struggling. I didn't want anyone, family, friends, to know that I was battling anxiety. I didn't want them to know, because I didn't want to be judged. And I didn't want to deal with the opinions of other people. I didn't want to deal with the opinions of other people. I was a people pleaser by nature, and I just could not deal with shame and guilt. I couldn't deal with that. I couldn't deal with the judgmental eyes and the judgmental words. I couldn't. So I dealt with it myself. But I accepted it. And then I realized I needed help, because I was not going to get out of the hole I was in by myself. I had my mom. Again, my mom is a therapist. She is amazing, incredible. She really helped me in those beginning stages of crisis because I was in a place of crisis. And then my husband was extremely supportive. But let me just say this. If you have a significant other, they don't understand in the beginning. Even to this day, if you have not battled anxiety, if you have not had a panic attack, no one can understand what it's like. And that is the truth. If you have not had anxiety and if you have not had a panic attack, no one can understand, because it's simply unexplainable how you feel and how you have a complete loss of control over your body, over your mind, and over your life. So I got help. My husband was extremely supportive, and luckily through time and him understanding my triggers and how I needed help, he is my number one cheerleader, my number one fan. He reminds me of things that I'm doing that, usually will flare up my anxiety, like, Allie, cut that out, okay? That's not good for you. So he's like my number one supporter along with my mom. But my mom referred me to see a counselor. So when I say get help, you might need to talk to a counselor. You might need to talk to a counselor. And there's no shame in that. I think every single person should see a counselor. You should have that neutral person that doesn't judge you, that accepts you, that helps you and listens to you. If anything, they listen to you. And I remember going to my counselor. I had two counselors. The first counselor I had was very medical. She was very like by the book, and I needed by the book. I needed someone that was like, you take the medication, you're doing too much, you need to eliminate grad school. She like told me how it is, because I needed to be told what to do because I was just a hot mess. So she helped me follow the order, and she helped me figure out the things I needed to do to eliminate, to overcome the crises that I was happening in my life right then. I then had another counselor. The other counselor was completely different. The second counselor I had was a mom of three. She had anxiety like me. She shared her personal struggles with me. She was like my mama. She was just like my mom. My mom is that type of therapist where she's like your mom, and you just instantly feel like you want to like share your heart and your soul with her because she just makes you feel so warm and fuzzy. That was my second counselor, and she made me feel human. She made me feel like it was okay that I moved the dresser in front of the door when my husband traveled for work because I was so afraid to be alone in case something happened to me. She validated my fears. She validated my anxiety, and I needed that in my life. And hands down, if you're listening to this and if you say that you've done all of these things I'm going to go over with you, and you haven't seen a counselor and you're still struggling, see a counselor. I put that as my number 2 thing, because when you have anxiety, most of the time there are triggers. There are things that trigger your anxiety, and you got to dig that root out, girlfriend. You got to dig the root out. You got to do the work. There were times where I'd be in counseling sessions and I'm like, I can't go there. If you want me to have a panic attack in this office, then keep talking. But I'm not talking. And there were 2 times where I had to get up and leave the office, my counselor's office, because I couldn't go there. There were too many, the issues were too personal for me, and I just couldn't handle it. But listen, the things that you don't want to talk about are the things you should talk about. The things, hear that, I'm going to say it again. The things you don't want to talk about are the things that you should talk about, because that means that there's some deep-rooted issues there. And you want to dig that shiz out. Because if not, you're going to keep having problems. You're going to keep circling back and back around with anxiety. And for me, my triggers, one of my largest triggers is medical issues. One of my biggest triggers is medical and health issues, because I had a really bad pregnancy. And then I started to have panic attacks, and it started to instill fears in me that something was going to happen to me. So medical stuff, I'm the girl that gets the white coat syndrome when I go into a doctor's office. By the way, I'm a nurse, which does not help. I think being a nurse, being a healthcare professional makes you like a hypochondriac, for real. So that's one of my big triggers. I have a couple other triggers, but going to counseling has helped me identify those issues. They've helped me become aware. And am I perfect? Do I avoid those triggers all the time? No, but I know they're there, and I prepare myself for what's going to come. Like today I'm going to a doctor's appointment. for my annual visit, okay? I'm going to my doctor's appointment for my annual visit today. I am already preparing my mindset to go to the doctor's office because it's a trigger for me. I'm preparing myself. And that's when you learn to become very self-aware. So number one, accept that you have anxiety. Number two, get some help. Get some help. There's nothing wrong with seeing a counselor. It's the best thing you'll ever do for your entire life, I promise you. Number three, take care of you. Take care of you. You are worth it. You are worth it. Take care of you. Prior to my anxiety, I hated working out. I hated working out. I grew up being a competitive cheerleader. I did track. I was the runner for softball because I had no hand-eye coordination, so I ran for the people that could hit the ball. But I did competitive cheerleading. I did all the tumbling, all that stuff. I did that in high school, but when I got out of high school, I went straight into college, and exercise was not in my vocabulary. I hated working out. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. And my counselor told me, she's like, Allie, you got to take care of you. You got to take care of you. She said, you got to move your body to change your mind. You have to move your body to change your mind. And I remember her saying that, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure this out. So I actually started to swim at my neighbor's pool. So I asked my neighbor at the time, I was like, hey, would it be okay if I would just swim a couple laps in your pool? Again, I hated to work out. I had no endurance. And she's like, yeah, go ahead, swim in my pool. So I started swimming in her pool like a couple times a day. My two youngest kids would come with me and sometimes I would bring my third in the stroller, or my husband would watch them. But I would just go swim a couple laps, get my body moving. And then I would also walk. I would put some headphones in and I would walk. I would say I probably started working out 3 to 4 times a week, 20 minutes max, because that's all my body could do. So take care of you. Move your body, change your mind. When you work out, you release a whole bunch of happy hormones and you get rid of the stress hormones. And if you have depression, it gets rid of the depression hormones, okay? It brings all of the happy feelings into your body. And I began to feel amazing just from working out 3 to 4 days a week, 20 minutes, walking and swimming. And I was, oh, okay, I can get used to this. I can do this more. I'm starting to enjoy the way I was feeling from moving my body. The second thing that I began to do with taking care of myself was I began to unplug. Again, remember what I said is that I am a type A. I have a never-ending to-do list, and rest is not in my vocabulary. You tell me to take a nap, what's a nap? You tell me to go relax by my pool, I'm not going to relax. Relaxing's for people who don't get things done. Like, I had this stigma in my head where I'm like, I'm task-oriented. Rest is not a task. I got to get stuff done. Well, I began to rest because my body needed it. Now, what do I mean by rest? I mean, you got to unplug. Get off of social media. Get off your phone. Get off the computer. Get off of TV. Yes, TV can be a trigger for anxiety. And what I did personally, when I would unplug, I would, number one, I would put worship music on. I love Hillsong. And I would just listen to worship music like all day long, because you can't be a worrier and a worshiper at the same time. That's a good one, right? You can't be a worrier while you're worshiping. And I was like, I'm just going to blast worship music all of the time and just stay in a place of gratitude and just joy and worship. So I had worship music on when I walked. I had worship music on when the kids were napping. I had it on when I was cooking dinner. I had it in my ear pods when I was listening to things. And that began to change the state of my mind into a state of just peacefulness and, gratitude. I also read and I journaled. So those were the 4 things that I would do during my quiet time and I probably would I committed to probably like an hour a day of personal development quiet time. I like to call that winning your mornings. And during that win your morning time, you can do it in the morning, you can do it in the afternoon, you can do it in the evening, whatever is best for your preference, is I would just sit down, put some worship music on. I would journal. That's the first thing I would do is I would journal. And then I would speak my truth, speak my affirmations, and then I would read a book, and that would be my process. And these were the 3 books. Journal, you can get anywhere. You can get a journal from Walmart if you want for 10 cents. But these were the 3 books right here. You can see that they are falling apart. These were the 3 books that changed my mindset. These were the first 3 books that I began to read when I struggled with anxiety. The first book was and is Jesus Calling. My mom gave this to me. It's literally, you guys, it is falling apart. I've had this book for 7 years, and I keep rereading it over and over and over again because it is just exactly what my soul needs every single day. So if you have anxiety, by the way, these books are faith-based as well. If you have anxiety, go order this book off of Amazon Prime. It's in my storefront, by the way, if you don't know what one to get, because mine's like, you can't even see the title of it. But I read this every single day. It's just a short little message, super short. And you can see that I already have stuff highlighted because I've read it multiple times. But Jesus Calling is the first book that I would recommend to help you take care of you when it comes to anxiety. The second book, Battlefield of the Mind. Now, these are faith-based, but they all have everything to do about your mindset and just having power over your thoughts, because where your mind goes, your actions follow. Let me say that again. Where your mind goes, your actions follow. And this is an incredible book. Another thing that I did besides listening to worship music and reading these books, Joyce Meyer's podcast, so many of her sermons are regarding mindset, and it has everything to do with just your thoughts and the way you think about yourself. Her podcast is amazing, and I would listen to her sermons pretty much every single day for like a legit solid 4 years when I was really trying to overcome. So this book, Battlefield of the Mind. The second book, this one's really good. I love this book because you can almost focus on each chapter like every single week for the rest of your life, because again, it goes back to, your words have power, and speaking affirmations over your life that you can overcome, and that your thoughts determine your destiny when it comes to who you want to become. So Power Thoughts is another book by Joyce Meyer. Can you see a trend? Joyce Meyer is all about the brain and your thoughts. But Power Thoughts is awesome because each chapter is talking about something in regards to the way you think about yourself. So for example, there's a chapter on the power of a positive you. There's a chapter of more power to you. There's a chapter on thinking, how you think about yourself. There's a chapter that says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. There is a chapter on how you are loved unconditionally. There is a chapter on, I will not live in fear. Look at this. I have it highlighted, text. I have notes in here. Oh my gosh, this book brought so much life to me. I am difficult to offend. There's a chapter on, I trust God completely. There is no need to worry. All of my needs are met abundantly. I pursue peace with God, myself, and others. I live in the present and enjoy each moment. Such a fabulous book. These 3 books, if you got anxiety, get them, because they will help you so much when it comes to your personal self-care for overcoming anxiety, okay? And then the third thing that I did personally for my own self-care, remember, I'm going to go over all of these tips at the end again so you can write them down. But the third thing that I did to take care of me personally, like my own self-care to overcome anxiety, was I also eliminated food triggers. This is really important. Now, again, I'm a foodie. I love my food. Do not take away my donuts. Do not take away my burgers. I love food. My husband's pizza is the best pizza in the world. But when you are in a state of crisis with anxiety and you are literally having to rehabilitate yourself, there are foods that can trigger your anxiety to be worse. It's proven, okay? And prior to this, I functioned, again, I had 3 kids. I didn't have a lot of time to cook and to eat. So I lived off of a super duper massive large coffee every single day, probably 3 times a day. The drive-through to Dunkin' Donuts was my BFF. And I lived off a large coffee, multiple large coffees that were 90% sugar and creamer. And that's what I lived off of. And I barely ate. And I was literally just surviving with what I was putting into my body. And you are what you eat. If you have never heard that, you are what you eat. So what you put in is what is coming out. And I was coming out with lots of anxiety and not healthy behavior. So I began to eliminate things that trigger anxiety. Caffeine, sugar, processed foods, gluten, those are a few things. Now, I understand how hard it is to change your nutrition. I get it. I get how hard it is to change your nutrition. So start with one thing. The first thing that I eliminated to help with my anxiety was I eliminated coffee. I know some of you are like, you must be joking, Ali. I cannot function without coffee. Well, if you can't function without coffee, you've got to ask yourself, why can't you function without coffee? Because if you're dependent upon something, sometimes to me that's like a red flag. Well, I was dependent upon coffee. I couldn't function without it, and I needed it. I had the headaches. I felt like I needed to sleep 24/7. But coffee was a trigger for my anxiety. It kept my heart up. It kept me racing. It kept me jittery. I was like a hamster on steroids when I had any type of coffee. So I eliminated coffee. Now, do I drink coffee now? Here you go. I have coffee, but I've had the same cup of coffee since 8 o'clock this morning, and I never even finished a cup. I now drink it for just like pleasure and just enjoyment. I love the taste of it, but even then, like most of the time I choose decaf over caffeine. So I'm not saying you have to eliminate coffee for forever, but it can be a trigger for some people. It can be a trigger, okay? So coffee, sugar. Ooh, I have a sweet tooth. Anyone else have a sweet tooth? I have a really bad sweet tooth, really, really bad sweet tooth. And I had to decrease the amount of sugar I was taking in because it was creating spikes in my, insulin. It was making me all over the place. And I knew that I needed to eliminate that. So I didn't completely cut it out, but I was just making smart food choices when it came to how much sugar I was taking, meaning processed sugar. I'm talking about processed foods like donuts, cookies, ice cream, sugar. Okay, you guys know what sugar is, right? So I had to decrease some of the sugar. And then I also eliminated soda and fast food. So those were the 4 things that I eliminated in the beginning. And surprisingly, when you eliminate them, you really don't want them as much anymore. And then when you do want them, you really understand a balanced approach to how you have them. So for now, I don't drink 3 cups of coffee a day, and I don't put sugar or creamer in mine. I have maybe a half a cup a day, and it's black, and it's perfect. I love it, but I've accustomed myself to that. Do I eat donuts every day? No, but you'll probably find me having a donut once a week or once every 2 weeks, or maybe some other sweet, because I do love sweets. So you can always treat yourself. But in the beginning, when you're in that state of like extreme anxiety, it's really important to look at the food that you're eating. And again, if you didn't know this, gluten and sugar and dairy are 3 of the top triggers for inflammation in your body. And again, everyone's body responds differently to inflammation. So if you're constantly ingesting foods that creates internal inflammation, your body could be experiencing anxiety from that inflammation that you're internalizing from those different ingredients. So look at the food you're eating, see, hey, maybe I can cut out the soda, maybe I can cut out some coffee, or maybe I can decrease the processed food. And you most likely will see a huge difference in your stress levels and your anxiety. The 4th thing that I made a huge change in my life, and this is really important, so important to remember in your recovery to anxiety, and also just your continued rehabilitation for, fighting your battle of anxiety. Because like I said, I'm an anxiety warrior, and I probably will forever be, is to surround yourself with positive people, It is really hard. It is really hard to go through something hard in life, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, whether it's another health condition, or maybe it's just life. It's really hard to not have a community of women, a best friend, someone that supports you and accepts you and loves you for what you're going through. And when I first started to experience this, it was me, myself, and I. It was me, myself, and I, and my mom and my husband and my counselor. And I felt very isolated, and I felt very alone. And I wish that I would have had someone back then be there for me to cheerlead me on. I really do. I feel like I could have overcome quicker. I feel like I maybe wouldn't have backslidden a few times in my behaviors. And surrounding yourself with positive people, positive women who are like-minded like you, women who have gone through it or going through it, it makes all the difference in the world for you to feel supported, unconditionally loved and accepted, and it makes you feel human, because it's hard, you guys. Anxiety is hard, depression's hard, any type of mental health disorder, any type of sickness maybe that you're going through, losing weight, that's hard. But when you have a community of women, you're going to overcome, because there's strength in sisterhood and there's power in numbers. And I wear this bracelet. I wear a lot of bracelets, but all my bracelets mean something. Is my black bracelet is right here, and you can see it has a whole bunch of cords on it. And this cord is representation of one of my imperfectly balanced verses, and it's that 2 is better than 1. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. And what that means is that you are stronger when you're partnered with someone else. You are stronger when you are a part of a community who can uplift you, who can empower you. So whether that's your local mom's stroller group, maybe that's your gym, maybe it's your mops at your local church, maybe it's your high school best friends. I don't know who it is, but find a community of women to plug into. Find a community of women who can tell you, girl, get back up. Stand back up, because you are worth this change and you can overcome and you can be victorious in your life. So that's everything. I could go on and on and on about more things that I've done, but those are just a handful. So I'm going to recap really quick the 4 things that I have done that have helped me overcome anxiety over the past 7 years. Number 1, accept that you have it. Number 2, get help. There's nothing wrong with having a counselor. Number 3, take care of you. You deserve the time. So what did I do to take care of myself? I unplugged with personal development, worship music. I journaled. I spoke my affirmations. I listened to podcasts. Number 2 is I moved my body. Move your body, change your mind. That means, yes, I got my sweat on at least 3 to 4 days a week. Number 3 is I eliminated foods that triggered my anxiety. And then the 4th thing that I did to help me recover and overcome anxiety was I surrounded myself with women who were like-minded, who could be my best friend, who could uplift me when I struggled, and who ultimately could speak life into my life. So that's everything. So remember that anxiety is like quicksand. Embrace it, because once you embrace it, you can start to overcome it. Have a fabulous Thursday. Thanks for watching. Tag a friend, tag another friend, tag a bestie that maybe is struggling with anxiety and that needs to hear these tips, because I know that if I would have had someone sharing with me how to overcome 7 years ago, I can only imagine, gosh, the changes I could have made. Oh, one more thing. This is like, I have it right in front of me. Remember how I said speaking affirmations? Do you remember how I said that, how I spoke my affirmations? Well, I brought this in here because I wanted you to see it. It's like, look at this. It has stains on it. The pages are all crumpled up. This I had in my bathroom. I've had this in my bathroom for 7 years now, and these were and still are my affirmations that I spoke over my anxiety every single morning and every single night before I went to bed. They were taped up. You can see the tape here. They were taped up in my bathroom. So every time I opened up my medicine cabinet, I could read these out loud. And on the back was a note from my husband that he wrote. So he was traveling and he flipped it over and he wrote a note to me. And I would read this every single day. And I'm going to get emotional again. But I would read this every day. And these affirmations changed my life. They changed my thoughts. And eventually my actions began to align with this type of thinking. So there's power. There's power in the words you speak over your life. There's power in the way you think about yourself. There's power, so much power in speaking truth over your life. So write down some affirmations. Oh my gosh, these are everything. And if you want these, just let me know and I can screenshot them to you and you can use them for yourself if you struggle with anxiety. There's a lot of scripture on here. I'm not going to send you the note my husband wrote me. Maybe your best friend or your spouse can write you a note that you're strong and you're amazing. That, yeah. So have a fabulous Thursday. Again, thank you so much for watching. You're awesome. Know that you can be victorious, that you can overcome your anxiety or any of your issues that you're going through, because if I can sit here today talking about this and sharing with you my journey, you can do it too. So thanks again. You ladies are amazing. Have a blessed day and go be victorious and go start implementing those 4 things today so that you can walk into your place of greatness. Bye.